Hi guys! So I'm going to tell you about the Orioles Caravan Day. Yes, I went to it. I am a Maryland native. I am a big Orioles fan. So I'm going to tell you about what it was like meeting Ramon Urias, Adley Rutschman, Taryn Vavra, Heston Kierstead, and Mike Elias. I think I got everybody. Yes, I did. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what happened as they happened. So here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to tell you the stories and I'll put all the pictures and everything at the end. I'll also put the videos where they go. So when they're announcing them into the bowling alley, I'll put that video right at the start of the bowling alley. And when I have the video of them getting on the bus, I'll put that. I mean, that's going at the end of the video anyway, because that was the end of the day, so you know. But I'll put all the pictures at the end just so, you know, we can have this story move a little bit more concise.
The brains behind the operation, it's Executive VP and General Manager Mike Elias. And last but not least, give it up for catcher Adley Rutschman. All right, we ask you all to go back to your lanes, stay within.
So, I told Urias that him and Odor were my favorite players on the Orioles, and he said, "Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it." So he said something to Q, the translator, but we'll get to that a little later. So he said, "Hey," as I turned around. And I looked at him and said, "Huh?" And he said, "Oh, nothing," and just repeated, "Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it," what he said earlier. But then he said something in Spanish to Q. I couldn't understand it, but as Urias walked away to go to a different lane, Q told me that he said that I was the only person he'd seen today with his jersey on. And you guys know Urias is like one of my all-time favorite players. And so to hear that I basically like made his day, I almost started crying. Because Q was like, he told Urias to tell me that. Oh, we'll get to that later. So I talked about my screaming with him, and Tori brought up my screaming, and that I screamed really loud for him and Odor, and he laughed. I said I made Tori go deaf in one ear, and he laughed again, and Tori said, "Yeah, both of us," meaning her and Kelly, and he laughed and said, "I appreciate it." So, you know. So Mike Elias asked where I was from, and I said Catonsville. That was about it, like just asking what area. So my dad said Urias was like saying hi, like uninterested and bored and like kind of whatever. But then when he saw me turn around, his face lit up. So that was nice to hear because I made Urias's day. So Adley stopped right where I needed to bowl, and I had to awkwardly tell him it was my turn. So he turned and looked at me and held out his hand and smiled. I took his hand and smiled, and I was like, "I need to bowl." He's like, "Oh, sorry, don't let me stop you." And I thought he was mad at me. So I apologized, and he said, "It's fine, I get it, bowling takes over." And then says, "No, you weren't rude." Then he said, "What is your name?" And I said, "Kayla." He held out his hand and said, "Adley." And I shook it, and he said, "Nice to meet you." So we talked about being catcher, and I asked him if he had advice because I have bad knees, and he said his knees are gone. He knows no advice. And I said, and he's like, "You'll be fine," and pats me on the back. Yeah, his knees are gone. But my dad said that makes sense because catchers in the major leagues, you know, they basically can't feel their knees anymore. Like they basically have damage to their knees because they're squatting so much. I told Vavra he had pretty eyes, you know, not in a weird way, just like a compliment. And he said, thank you very much. So, you know, thank you very much. Like that Elvis thing is kind of what it was like. So then Kierstad came up, and I told Kierstad I was learning Norwegian, so I thought he was. And he said he was, and I was like, okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure. And he asked why I was interested in learning Norwegian. So I told him, well, my great-grandmother is from Norway, and my grandmother was born in Norway. She moved here when she was 2 to Chicago, but I never got to learn Norwegian from her, and I wanted to. He didn't know any Norwegian, so sadly we couldn't have a convo in Norwegian, but if you guys think I'm lying about knowing Norwegian, hi, velkommen. Har du fra? Where are you from? Svømmer du? Do you swim? Things like that. But I told him about my cousin's middle name, because we talked about the silent J in his name, and my cousin's middle name is Håkon with the 2 A's. So, at the autograph. So I got an autograph from Urias and Kierstad, but I brought the jersey to get signed, and Kierstad said he wouldn't sign his jersey. That's Urias's, and Urias laughed. I went to him and gave it to him. I told him he had free reign to sign wherever, and he chose the number 2. I apologized. I said it got wrinkly because I was wearing it earlier, and Urias said, yeah, I remember you. And he said it without a smile, so I was scared, but he said it in a happy tone and was focused on signing. I knocked over his car by accident, so I said, sorry. I knocked it down and put it back up and said, thank you. I said thank you probably like so many times. He was probably so annoyed with me. And then at the brewery at the end of the day, this is what you really got to pay attention to. So I talked to Q, which is the translator. You guys have probably seen Q on interviews with the Orioles. I thanked him for telling me what he told me. He said, yeah, I point out to him that you were wearing his jersey, and he said she's one of the only people wearing it, and it made his day to see me wearing it. I said him and Odor were my favorites, and I always wanted to buy his jersey, but it wasn't there. So when my sister got it for me, I started crying because I was so happy. I had to calm myself down. Hearing that I made Urias's day was one of the most amazing things I've ever heard in my entire life, because to make somebody who's famous this day, like, that means like so much more to me than I could ever, because like you can go to people and see them in a concert, but like you rarely hear that you make their day. Like for somebody to tell me that. And like Urias kept looking at me and smiling after he got pictures of people at the brewery. And it was just so nice to kind of have that fan person connection. So the bird hugged me after I asked for a hug. And then he grabbed my hands and kissed them, and he made like a kiss sound, like he made that sound. So yeah, I'm just really excited. You guys will see the bowling alley video when I said we were at bowling. You guys will see the bus video at the end of this video, but you'll also see my pictures. I mean, I have 2 on my lock screen right now. I don't know if you can see that. It's Q and Urias on my lock screen. But yeah, I'll show you pictures with everybody. I'll put on the screen who it is, but you guys will probably already know Urias, Rutschman, Vavra, and you might know Mike Elias. But I'll still put the names on there just in case you guys don't know. You might not know Kierstad, so I'll put the name on there. I love saying his last name. It's so much fun. Anyway, you guys, also, if you want to learn Norwegian, you can hit me up. I could tell you where I started learning it. Duolingo is always great. That owl will take your kneecaps, though, so you need to do it once every day. Anyway, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Grayson, DL 1-2. Alright, see you Monday. Pardon you guys, pardon me. Thank you.